Hello there, good afternoon, and thank you for choosing ABC News Ghana. I am Jennifer Samoa. Coming up in today's bulletin. There is growing sentiment about whether the election will see the rise of a third force. We will look into this. Also coming up, Ghana Statistical Service latest report reveals children aged 0 to 5 months in Ghana were not being exclusively breastfed. We will look into the percentage breakdown. Also, CSAC invalidates an MOA with NLC over its agitations. Still to come in the bulletin, in business, Bank of Ghana sanctions some entities as part of its measures to sanitize the banking sector. And on the international front, Kamala Harris chooses Tim Walz as running mate. This and many more coming up. Do stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Don't forget we are streaming on YouTube at ABC News Ghana. Now the news in detail. With the 2024 elections on the horizon, all eyes are on the NPP and NDC. However, there is growing sentiment about whether this election could see the rise of a third force. Could Alan Tremontin's movement for change or the dynamic Nana Kwame Bediako disrupt the long-standing duopoly? Despite some promising polling for these newcomers, pollster and executive director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa, says the race will remain a tight contest between the NPP and NDC, with no third party pushing the election into a second round. Samuel Nimabo has more in this report.
The 2024 elections will undoubtedly feature the two bigwigs, the New Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress, with the NPP seeking to break the eight and the NDC wanting a comeback after 8 years of absence. But will it be the elections that will break the duopoly of these two parties and see an emergence of a third force? Will it be Alan Tremontin's movement for change, who has received good polling in recent times, or the youthful and vibrant Nana Kwame Bediako to break the duopoly? The two have their eyes set to either win the 2024 election or at least cause havoc for one of the leading two parties. Pollster and executive director of Global Info Analytics, Musa Dankwa, says the 2024 elections would still be keenly contested between the NPP and the NDC. According to him, the newbies will harm the chances of the incumbent NPP and give the NDC a free pass.
The effect of third force depends on where that force is coming from. You could clearly see that Movement for Change is an offshoot of the elephant. It's a fact. You can't dance around it. Cheddar, what offshoot is it from? 80% MPP.
He says a third force in either Alan or Cheddar will not even take the elections into a second round.
No, from what we have seen, there won't be runoff. If the situation changes by the next poll, we'll come back and tell them, the situation has changed. But since the question was, if elections were held today, who would you vote for? We're not saying in December. So if you go back in October, November, and it has changed, we will let you know. If that happens, we can see some shift in the numbers. But if the situation continues the way it is now, I'm sorry.
Some Ghanaians express mixed feelings about a third force in the 2024 elections.
I think it would be great, but I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening though, because most people are born into the party system. Like, we were supporting NDC or NPP, so I don't. It will be difficult.
With Afafran, so I learned some other small groups they've come together and they've joined them. So if they do, like, if they are able to campaign well, I think they'll be able to match MPP and NDC.
We need a third force because we have tried both NPP and NDC, but we have not seen anything much. But I think if we can get another party, a third force, as you are saying, if we can get a third force like somebody like Afafanto, Alan Cash, based on his policies, we realize that we can make an impact.
MPP and NDC have taken over for almost more than 2 decades. So I don't think Cheddar or Alan or anybody can.
Joining us via Zoom is political strategist at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, Dr. Samuel Efriye, to look at the prospect of a third force in the 2024 elections. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us here on ABC News Ghana.
Yes, you are welcome, my dear sister, and also your viewers. I'm from Kumasi Technical University.
Kumasi Technical University, sorry for that.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Doctor. So looking at the independent candidates that have emerged, would we see a strong third force in the 2024 elections?
Thank you. In Ghanaian politics so far, it has become very difficult to have a third force because of how the two major parties, the MPP and the NDC, has monopolized the system. So it has become very difficult for the third party to come in. But mostly the third party that want to be a force to reckon is to make it difficult for the other parties to win, especially on the first round. But to have a third force that have an intent to win power, sometimes I think currently it will be very difficult in 2024 election. Even if they combine all the parties together with that intent to win power, it might, because there are two major parties has taken root of the Ghanaian politics for a while, and it becomes very, very difficult for any party to break. Maybe for some years to come, if there's a concerted effort to build the youth that are coming, to ensure that the youth have a certain direction, that the party that will be more centered on the youth. I think for some years to come, they can make a difference. But the 2024 elections, coming up with a third force with all these independent candidates, might be very, very difficult for 2024 elections.
But Doctor, has the duopoly of the NPP and NDC helped the country in any way?
My dear sister, it's somehow, I would say yes and no. Yes, maybe due to the stability.
The 2024 elections will undoubtedly.
You have these parties that this one go, this one come, this one go, and this one come. But for the pure politics where we can have, should I say, fairness, where we can have a system where all of us will be treated equally, is not what the two parties has helped us to accomplish, and that is where the problem is. For instance, if any party that wins power, everything is for the party. That is what is not helping us. If the other party, as the NDC, wins the election, then for the next 4 years or 8 years is for them alone in terms of resources, in terms of power and everything. And that is where we have a problem. And because of that, this party tends to ensure that they root themselves very well, and that has not been helpful for that is for all of us Ghanaians as well.
Going to be challenging or difficult? Something they can do to make this happen eventually?
Please, I couldn't hear you at the beginning. can repeat your question,
Doctor,
please.
I'm saying that you said that it will be difficult for a third force to unseat the NPP and the NDC. But I'm saying that is there something they can do differently to make this happen eventually?
Yes, they can make it happen when, you know, the two parties are so strategic in such a way that they're able to root their youth, you know. The generation that are coming is where you can target them for these new parties that are coming. When you look at Alan's movement for change, you could realize that most of them are the youth that were in the MPP party that is able to have that foundation. So if all the independents and let's say the other parties, that is the independent parties, tend to groom the youth, I think that can be the basis for future third force. If not, because some of us are older.
Well, that is Dr. Efriye speaking to us on if there is a possibility of a third force with a duopoly of NDC and MPP. Well, some of the things he said was it's difficult to have a third force, and even if there's a third force, it's going to be very challenging for the third force to unseat the NPP and the NDC. Still on the election 2024, flag bearer of the new patriotic party, Dr. Mahama is set to consolidate his campaign with the launch of the manifesto for the 2024 elections. Having outdoored his running mate, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, and commenced his constituency tour, Dr. Mahama will be unveiling his policy document on August 18, 2024, as part of the last laps of his campaign machinery. This revelation was contained in a statement by the party General Secretary Justin Kodua Frimpong. The manifesto launch is anticipated to be a pivotal moment for the NPP as it seeks to communicate its policies and initiatives to the electorate. According to the statement, the party believes the manifesto will provide a comprehensive roadmap for Ghana's development and address the country's pressing needs. Let's take a look at the highlights of the party's 2016 and 2020 manifestos with a focus on economy, agriculture, education, health, governance, and corruption. During the MPP 2016 manifesto, some of the key highlights were a strong economy matters, and the objective of the party was to build the most business-friendly and people-friendly economy in Africa, which will create jobs and prosperity for all Ghanaians by one, restoring the macroeconomic stability and also shifting the focus of economic management from taxation to production. They also touched on managing the economy competently and also making the machinery of government work to deliver the benefits of progress to Ghanaians. Also on trade and industry, during the MPP 2016 manifesto, they touched on providing the necessary incentives for private sector participation in health service delivery and also pursuing policies that will reduce interest rates and implementing policies that will reduce the cost of doing business and also stabilizing the currency. Also, they touched on providing incentives to the hospitality and creative industries that will enable them create jobs. Still on the trade and industry, they touched on investing in skills, training and apprenticeship, promoting exports, especially of value-added agricultural produce and light manufacturers. Now on health, for the 2016 manifesto by the NPP, the objective was to ensure that the right to health of all Ghanaians is guaranteed through an established health sector with sustainable ability to deliver affordable, equitable, and easily accessible healthcare by one, ensuring and mainstreaming a health in all policy approach with government agencies taking into account the health implications of their work programs. Also, instituting a One Health, well, let's move to economy. where they touch on the support made in Ghana products, including supporting the use of local raw materials, and also to continue to ensure stable and affordable power for industrial development. They also touch on promoting the manufacturing of digital devices locally, and also to continue to work with the private sector to establish more special economic zones for manufacturing and support them with last mile infrastructure services, and also finalize the establishment of the bauxite refinery to complete the aluminium value chain. Still, now let's move to the MPP 2020 manifesto highlights. With regards to education, they touch on consolidating the implementation of the free senior high school and free TVET programs. Also, to continue to increase the manpower, resources, and teaching facilities, including the use of ICT teaching aids of public tertiary institutions to support the expected increases in student population from the free senior high school graduates. They also touch on reviewing the student loan scheme to allow students access loans without the requirement of a guarantor for the loan, provided he or she has a national identification number from the Ghana card. Still on education, they also implemented a $219 million Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcomes project to improve the quality of education in 10,000 low-performing basic education schools across all 260 districts. Now let's move to roads and infrastructure. They also touch on the relaunch of the Metro mass transport system throughout regional capitals, and also introduction of innovative policies to facilitate urban traffic decongestion. They also touch on complete development of the Guape Inland Port and the complete development of coastal fish landing sites, and also the complete development of the Bankwa Inland Port. They also touch on the upgrade of the Tema Shipyard and Dry Dock and the Volta Lake transport improvement. They also said they were going to complete the development of the Etuebo part and continue investing in the expansion of infrastructure at all public tertiary institutions to enhance capacity and facilities to absorb the expected increase in student population. Move to health. Still on the NPP 2020 manifesto highlight, some of the things they touched on was to complete ongoing hospital projects and related infrastructure, and also to complete the ongoing digitalization of medical records through the patient's records management system, that is the e-health solution, and use health information management systems and health analytics to improve the quality of patient care. Still on health, they touch on expanding access to medical schools in Ghana by building additional facilities and augmenting its human resource base, and also to support the development of traditional medicine while supporting the private sector to ramp up production locally and eliminate import duty on sanitary pads to improve health outcomes, particularly for girls. That is highlights from the 2016 manifesto and the 2020 manifesto by the NPP. Well, joining us via phone is the Vice Chairman of the Manifesto Committee, Kojo Opon Nkrumah, to discuss this further. Good afternoon. Well, we are trying to get in touch with the Vice Chairman of the Manifesto Committee to discuss more on this. We'll come back to that. But moving on, the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama, has clarified an earlier report of him endorsing the call for the creation of a new region in Boko. He says it doesn't lie in his power to create a new region. speaking at a media encounter at the Upper East region to wrap up his campaign activities in the Northern regions, he indicated that the Bokonaba asked for the creation of a new region, and he acknowledged the constitutional challenges that need to be addressed in achieving this. Let's take a listen.
Requesting that another region should be created out of the Upper East region to cover the 6 constituencies in the Boko area. Boko Naba raised it with me, and I told him in principle I think it's a good idea for 2 reasons. One, for reason of bringing government closer to the people. That's the principal reason for which we create new regions and new districts. And then the second reason is for security. Boko is a special security zone because of the issues that have been happening here. And so it will be a good proposal to have a region so that it can be a focus to make sure that we deal with the security issues as well as we can. Requesting that another region should be created out of the Upper East region to cover the 6 constituencies in the Boko area. Boko Naba raised it with me, and I told him in principle I think it's a good idea for 2 reasons. One, for reason of bringing government closer to the people. That's the principal reason for which we create new regions and new districts. And then the second reason is for security. Boko is a special security zone because of the issues that have been happening here. And so it will be a good proposal to have a region so that it can be a focus to make sure that we deal with the security issues as well as we can.
Away from election 2024, the Minister of Finance, Honorable Mohammed Amin Adam, has announced an expansion in the government school feeding program, which now covers 4 million children, up from 1.6 million in 2016. Speaking at the regional town hall meeting and exhibitions at Nat Hall, Honorable Adam highlighted the government's achievements in education.
The first one was school feeding program. School feeding program in 2016 covered 1.6 million children. School feeding program. This year, 2024, school feeding program now covers 4 million children. 4 million children. We've moved from 1.6 million children in 2016 to 4 million children today. The first one was school feeding program. School feeding program in 2016 covered 1.6 million children. School feeding program. This year, 2024, school feeding program now covers 4 million children. 4 million children. We've moved from 1.6 million children in 2016 to 4 million children today. The first one was school feeding program. School feeding program in 2016 covered 1.6 million children. School feeding program. This year, 2024.
Well, away from that, Locked Up Investment Holders Forum, a forum that seeks the release of depositors of locked up funds in financial institutions licensed by the Bank of Ghana and have become insolvent, are picketing at the Ministry of Finance today, and members have converged at the premises of NDK and marched to the Ministry of Finance to picket there after 12 noon. My colleague Andy is there to let us know what is happening. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Jennifer.
What is the situation on the ground right now?
Yeah, so Jennifer, the situation here is calm, mainly because the convener, that is Mr. Udu Entry, has entered the Ministry of Finance with 4 other old men to see the minister. We got here around 10-15 thereabouts, and they were holding their placards up there, showcasing their plight and everything. And then some few minutes later, the convener, Mr. Entry, entered with 4 other old men to see the minister. And since then, the other old men and women who are here are seated here. And this thing that has started since 3 months ago, speaking to some of these old men and women, are saying that every Wednesday, as they have said, they will still continue to come here to pour out their plights and whatever it takes to the government until they refund their money back to them. And that is what is currently here. So this time around, as they are coming, they came with some plastic chairs with canopy so that they could get some shade. And most of the old women are sitting under the shade and on the plastic chairs, waiting the convener to come out with whatever information he has for them. So that is what is currently going on here.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy, for that update. Andy is at the Ministry of Finance, where a picketing is ongoing currently. Let's move away from that and go back to elections 2024, where the NPP parliamentary candidate for Tema West constituency, Dennis Amfor-Sefa, has boldly declared that the ruling party will win convincingly despite concerns of slim vote differentials recorded in previous elections between the ruling party and the opposition. The parliamentary vote difference in the constituency is a little over 2,500 between the NPP and the opposition NDC, despite significant gains made by the 2020 NDC candidate Raphael Tufor, who polled a total of 4,171 votes against the incumbent Carlos Kingsley Ahenkra, who polled 46,707 votes, according to the former chairman of Tema West. Even though the contest is quite close, he is hopeful of winning the seat. Well, still on the election 2024, the NPP parliamentary candidate for Tema West constituency, that is Dennis Amfor-Sefa, says he is bold that the ruling party will win convincingly despite the concerns of slim vote differentials that has been recorded in previous elections between the NDC and the NPP. Well, the parliamentary vote difference in the constituency is a little over 2,500 between the NPP and the opposition NDC, despite significant gains made by the 2020 NDC candidate, that is Raphael Tufor, who polled a total of 44,171 votes against the incumbent Carlos Kingsley Ahenkra, who also polled 46,707 votes. Well, according to the former chairman of Tema West, even though the contest is quite close, he is hopeful of winning the seat. Well, meanwhile, Dennis Amfor-Sefa has hinted at plans to set up a youth resource development center to train the youth in some 10 selected professions when voted to represent the constituents of Tema West. According to Dennis, the initiative will help tackle the issue of high unemployment rates in the constituency.
How's campaign been?
let's take a look at what is happening in the world of business now. In business, the Bank of Ghana has announced sanctions against 245 business entities and 45 individuals for persistent issuance of dad checks. In a press release yesterday, the central bank said that the affected bank customers issued dad checks on at least 3 occasions between January 2022 and January 2024, despite warnings about the consequences of their actions. The offenders are accordingly banned from issuing checks in Ghana for 3 years, effective 28 June 2024, accessing new credit facilities from the bank system for 3 years with effect from 28 June. The central bank, by this statement, cautioned the public to desist from issuing dad checks as
if you
have legal
today we have hundreds of
consequences. Still on the banking sector, the Africa Development Bank, in a country-focused report titled Driving Ghana's Transformation, has advised the Bank of Ghana to introduce an exchange rate policy to reduce pressure on the cedi exchange rate. According to the report, the Bank of Ghana should allow the cedi to freely adjust as much as possible based on changes in other macroeconomic fundamentals, because attempting to resist movement based on fundamentals could undermine growth. This advice is one of the 3 short-term policy options to foster high and resilient growth, supporting macroeconomic stability and economic transformation. Well, we are joined by Dr. Richmond Etiani, a banking consultant at the Salmo Partners and Financial Consult Limited. He joined us via Zoom to touch on these 2 issues. Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to your cherished viewers and listeners.
And thank you for joining us here on ABC News Ghana. Bank of Ghana, thank you so much. Bank of Ghana, over 200 business entities and customers over issuance of dad checks. But what really is a threat this offense poses to banks and SDIs?
Thank you very much. I mean, if you know the antecedent, the historical antecedent of dad checks, that collapsed BAC, a Ghana cooperative bank, when A-Life decided to use dad checks to the system. So I think Bank of Ghana at the beginning of the year wrote to about, I think 2 years ago, wrote to all the banks that they want to monitor these dad checks, because people don't have funds. They write the checks and deceive the customers. So Bank of Ghana said that everybody who does that, your name will be taken. And that is the data they have collected. And to us as bankers, former banker, I think these steps should have been taken long time, because the experience of A-Life collapsing of the BAC, Bank for Housing and Construction, and Ghana Cooperative Bank should have sent a warning to us that this thing cannot go on. So for me, I commend Bank of Ghana, although it's too late, but they have done very well to ensure that people who issue dad checks do not even have access to accounts, let alone operating accounts with the banks. So for me, it is a laudable idea, and it will help the financial sector, the banking sector very, very well.
Well, Doctor, enhancement of surveillance is certainly required to stem this. What more can the central bank do to raid or curtail this within the sector?
I think the Bank of Ghana has done very well by talking about KYC, know your customer, and know your customer businesses. All these things are to address these fraudulent clients or customers who purport to get accounts. So for me, the system has been set well in place for the banks to be aware and conscious that these fraudsters are parading in the corridors to drive business away. And also it would affect, you see, the usage of checks. It reduces the confidence of using checks. So at least what Bank of Ghana has done, it would enhance the confidence of people who issue check that they know that when a check is issued, they to meet the credit. So for me, KYC, KYB, know your business, know your customer, and all the other things that the banks do would help the banks to be very stable and have people have confidence in the banking sector. But for me, it's kudos. It's a great thing that they have done, and I hope they can do far more to get rid of these fraudsters who have been parading in the industry for a long time.
Well, thank you, Doctor. But before I let you go, yesterday, the African Development Bank released a statement advising the Bank of Ghana to formulate an exchange rate policy to reduce the pressure on the cedi exchange rate. Is this valid?
Well, you see, normally when you take theories and practices, it doesn't work like that. You see, the person who wrote the article is coming from a perspective of what we call free floating exchange rate. Free floating means that you determine the price by supply and demand. Unfortunately, looking at our export and imports, we cannot be doing that. If we do that, one day we'll get up and the cedi will be about 24 cedis to $1. And that the ramification of it is that it's going to have inflation, impact on inflation and the system. So for me, it looks good when you say it in a textbook, but you should always be mindful of the supply side. Our supply side, I can give you figures if you wouldn't mind. I'm going to give you figures that will support that. Our imports are far more than what we export. I mean, for 10-year period between 2014 and 2023, you know that we exported 18.9 billion of cocoa. And then we also have only 7.5 billion of 6 billion of gold. But if I tell you the aggregate imports over those period, the foreign exchange does not meet it at all. So there is always a trade gap, or what you call the trade deficit. And that trade deficit translates into the losses of the depreciation of the currency. So if you don't do what Bank of Ghana is doing, what we call the managed floats. The managed float means that the currency seems to be allowed to flee on its own, but Bank of Ghana intervene as at when they see the need. So that is what we operate. We have been operating the managed float since 1983, and Bank of Ghana do intervene so that the cedi doesn't slide, because we import so much. I mean, last week, about 2 weeks ago, you heard that we imported tomatoes about 100 million from Burkina Faso, and mangoes. All these things are real foreign currency. I haven't talked about the clinkers and the petrol and what have we, and the drugs and everything. So in a country where you are not making a lot of resources, foreign resources, definitely your currency will be depreciating. So that statement looks good. That statement looks good. But if you are like to imply it,
Thank you so much, Dr. Etuahin. He is a banking consultant, and he is saying that it would be difficult for the exchange rate policy because the rate of export is more than import. Still in business, the Finance Minister Mohammed Amin Adams has indicated that 169 factories under the government's flagship One District, One Factory program have been completed and fully functioning. Addressing the media at a town hall meeting in Accra, the minister said the One District, One Factory program has contributed to Ghana's export exchange.
And if you care, today we have 169 fully functional factories that were established under 1D, 1F. 169 fully functional factories under 1D, 1F. Important. And
still on business, the Minister of Finance, Mohammed Amin Adams, has intimated that the Akufo-Addo government has added $20 billion to Ghana's GDP they took over in 2017. Reiterating the government's strides in the economy despite the current challenges at a town hall meeting in Accra, the minister boasted that they have added more to Ghana's economy.
It was a necessary, very important decision at the time that if we avoided it, our economy will not recover such as it has recovered today. The decisions we made and all the support you gave us, the people of Ghana, during the DDEP has contributed largely to the recovery our economy is seeing today. And this is why I want to appeal to you to forgive us, but also to thank you, the people of Ghana. And so because of the performance, you can see it reflected also in the size of the GDP. The size of the GDP. The GDP is our gross domestic product, which is our total economy, total goods and services. GDP in 2013 was $64 billion. Nominal GDP, as the economists will call it, $64 billion US dollars. By 2016, it came down from $64 billion to $56 billion. 2013 to 2016. Last year, 2023, the GDP stood at $76 billion. So in nominal terms, President Akufo-Addo has added $20 billion United dollars to the economy.
Well, that's all for business, but let's take a look at more local stories. As the National Labour Commission, in a meeting with the allied professionals, has directed the Minister for Health, Dr. Bernard Okoboy, to step in and resolve the ongoing impasse between staff of Kolebu chapter of the Ghana Federation of Allied Health Professionals and management. This comes at the back of management's refusal to grant the health professionals a direct position on the top management in the hospital. A client service supervisor, Dr. Esther Okine, and a senior medical laboratory scientist, Mr. Timothy Mensah Abuaje, at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, has been speaking to my colleague Andy Opondenchi about the NLC meeting and the strike.
We are waiting the outcome of the meeting. We are praying and being optimistic that it comes out positive, so that the directorate for the allied health is set. If it comes out positive, everyone is happy and then we go ahead and do our work. But if unfortunately we do not get the desired outcome, the Federation of the Allied Health Professionals, as a body, we all work under them. So as a client service supervisor, I still work under them. So whatever directive they give us to continue with the strike, we'll go ahead. But we really pray that it doesn't have to go that way, because our clients, some of them are booked. They come all the way from Sawam, Volta region, they come all the way, get here, and then realize we are not working.
The leadership of our federation, the local chapter, we called an emergency yesterday to suspend the meeting based on the letter we received from the National Labour Commission about our intended strike. Out of reverence and show of good faith, leadership has suspended the strike. The National Labour Commission has called a meeting with the local federation and the national federation, and the outcome of the meeting at the NLC will inform us as to whether to go ahead with our roadmap or end the whole thing. And we are hoping the outcome will be favorable so that we can call off the strike permanently and attend to our clients. That is our ultimate aim.
We are waiting the outcome of the meeting.
Well, still on health, as the world marks Breastfeeding Week in the first week of August this year, the Ghana Statistical Service Demographic and Health Survey has shown that almost half of children under 6 months in the country are not exclusively breastfed. The 2024 World Breastfeeding Week theme is Closing the Gap, Breastfeeding Support for All. My colleague Abna Manti has been perusing the report and has more to share. Hello, Abna.
Hello, Jennifer.
What more do you have to report on these findings?
Well, the report says that 2 in every 5 children born 2 years before the report was done in 2022, did not start breastfeeding in the first hour of their life. The WHO, the World Health Organization, says that children, they recommend that babies born should be breastfed the first 1 hour of their life. This goes a long way to ensuring immunity for the children. You know that the first milk expressed by mothers is called colostrum, and this colostrum is rich in antibodies, and this colostrum acts as a form of immune booster for the baby. And so the WHO advises that mothers breastfeed their children within the first hour of birth. However, it's not so here in Ghana. The issue is that we could look at it from the angle of cesarean section. If a woman gives birth to her baby via cesarean section, it's very unlikely that she will feed the baby within the first 1 hour. The GSS also says that in 3 regions here in Ghana, over half of the children did not start breastfeeding within the first hour of their lives. And in Greater Accra, the number was 56.2%. This is more than half. This is more than half in the Greater Accra, and it is worrying. In the Ahafo region, it was 56.1%, and in the Eastern region, it was 51.7%. The region that had the lowest was the Bono East region with 29.4%, and following closely was the Volta region with 31.6%. So we see this as some of the issues that the GDS phase. And we also have in the statistics that between the ages of 0 and 1 month, 74% of children were exclusively breastfed, as the WHO wants or recommends. So when the kids are from 0 days up until 1 month, at least, we see that the mothers exclusively breastfeed them. We know that for the first 6 months of the life of a baby, they should be breastfed fully, exclusively. This is because the breast milk has all the nutrients, all the right nutrients in all of its right proportions for the babies. So they do not even have to rely on anything. And the system of the baby isn't like the adult or a child who is over a year old. So that child does not need anything apart from breast milk. So the report shows that indeed, within the first 1 month, parents do well, mothers do well to breastfeed their children. However, 25% of these children are not breastfed according to the WHO standards. In this, it shows that they are given breast milk. And another thing, the breast milk is supplemented with water, the breast milk is supplemented with formula or animal milk, or sometimes semi-solids. This can also be attributed to the fact that some mothers are not able to receive the full maternity leave that they should get, so they leave, they go to work, and then their babies are at home with a guardian, a nanny, and then we'll have to supplement the little breast milk that the mother has expressed with something else for the baby. It also showed that between the ages of 2 and 3 months, 45% of children were receiving liquids or solid foods other than breast milk. Like I said earlier, the breast milk is the exclusive. The breast milk is what the baby should be given. However, because of some challenges, they are given other things than the breast milk to supplement for their diet. The reports also show that by the ages of 4 to 5 months, 25% of children are exclusively breastfed. It also showed that majority of these children were receiving liquids other than breast milk. You understand that 25%, if we are dividing 100% into 4, 25% is just 1/4 of the number. And this is really worrying, because if just 1/4, that if we took 4 children, only 1 was getting breastfed, and it is a worrying trend. The report also indicated that 67% of Ghanaian children between the ages of 12 to 23 months are currently breastfeeding. So mothers are breastfeeding their children even beyond the 6 months. The 6 months is exclusive, but beyond 6 months, you supplement with something. Parents have fed their babies who are even over 12 months with breast milk. The report also indicated that 69% of children were introduced to solids, semi-solids, and soft foods at the ages of 6 to 8 months. So from the 6th month, children start to get acquainted with semi-solids, with solids. See that there are some babies who love banku, some love fufu, some love kenke, and other meals. The report finally indicated that almost half of all children aged between 6 to 23 months were fed the minimum number of times. It also indicated that 62% of children aged 6 to 23 months consumed eggs and or fresh food such as meat, fish, poultry, and organ meat. 32% of children consumed a sweet beverage, 33% consumed unhealthy foods, and 31% did not consume any vegetables at all. Which, Jennifer, we can see that it's also worrying, because after 6 months, if you're feeding your child is growing, your baby is growing, and there are no vegetables in their diet, it is a cause for concern. The sweet beverage consumption and unhealthy foods consumption among children aged between 6 and 23 months are higher in urban areas. That was 39% and 40% respectively than in rural areas.
Join us via phone is Linda Osabia Kumiki Seidu, a midwife at the Arakan Medical Center, to continue the conversation on this. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us here on ABC News Ghana.
Hello, good afternoon. Good afternoon to your listeners as well.
Good afternoon to you too. What consequences are we looking at, as about half of children under 5 months are not exclusively breastfed?
Okay, so if we want to take the consequences on the children, then I would like to input a recent report I had on one of my clients. So apparently the client was a doctor who suffered anemia during pregnancy. Unfortunately, 2 of the children, which were twins at birth, are having brain conditions now. But I think I would like to talk more about the challenges with exclusive breastfeeding.
Yeah, you can go on.
Okay, so recently, Ejekum and his colleagues wrote a paper discussing the enablers and inhibitors of exclusive breastfeeding. And it was mainly from the perspective of mothers and health workers in Accra. And this was just recent in 2022. And the number one reason was lack of support for mothers, basically during the pregnancy period, during labor, and even after birth. So they saw from their studies that usually when women are pregnant, and we all know that in the first 3 months they are unable to eat. Even those who are able to cook are not able to eat the food that they have cooked. But unfortunately, for them to have support from their families, or let's say they are having a mother or a mother-in-law coming to visit and then cook for them, it was very difficult. And it was basically because our economy is graduating into more career women. And now we are having more women in parliament. So if we are having a range of between 40 and above in the parliament house, who now we will call the grandmothers, and women also below that age also delivering, then it means that we would have a lack of support from the mothers. And this lack of support has also accentuated the fact that most of our women has become anemic, because they are unable to eat even before pregnancy and then during the pregnancy. It is very important to note that about half of the population, a study mentioned 51.1% of Ghanaians being anemic. And let me go back to Ejekum and his colleagues' paper, because they noted that the number one reason women are not able to exclusively breastfeed is because their milk flow during birth or after birth is insufficient. So we all say you cannot give what you don't have. So if your body doesn't have the required nutrients to be given to the baby, then it will be very, very difficult to breastfeed the baby when you give birth to the baby.
All right, thank you so much, Osabia. She is a midwife, and she's saying some of the factors that contributed to this report is lack of support from family. Away from that, let's do some sports now. In sports, Gabrielle "Gabby" Thomas, an American track field athlete, has made history by winning the gold medal in the women's 200-meter event at the 2024 Paris Olympics. This marks her first Olympic gold medal, following bronze and silver medals in previous competitions. Thomas, a Harvard University graduate and public health master's degree holder, dominated the race from start to finish, crossing the line in 21.83 seconds. Her victory denied Julian Alfred of St. Lucia a double gold in both 100 meters and 200-meter events. Thomas's victory marks an end to an 18-year drought for the United States in the 200-meter event, dating back to Allyson Felix's gold medal win at the 2004 Athens Olympics. Let's do some international now. On international fronts, Kamala Harris, the Democratic nominee for president, has chosen Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, as her running mate for the upcoming November 5 U.S. elections. Tim Walz is a 60-year-old Democrat and military veteran who has served as governor of Minnesota since 2019. Prior to his governorship, he was a high school teacher and coach, and he also served in the U.S. Army National Guard for 24 years. Walz has been praised for his progressive record in Minnesota, including enacting laws on universal school meals, legalized marijuana, abortion protections, and gun control measures. The Harris-Walz ticket will now focus on the general election campaign, with rallies planned across the country. Let's do some entertainment now. Edition of the National Festival of Arts and Culture has been officially launched on Tuesday, August 6, 2024 at the African Continental Free Trade Area in Accra. This 7-day event aims to celebrate Ghanaian arts and culture, featuring a diverse range of activities including Grand Derby of Chiefs, colloquiums, Women and Girls Day, master classes for creatives, conferences and seminars for cultural practitioners and members of academia, musical concerts, regional days, Mr. and Miss NAFAC, traditional games, arts and crafts, bazaars, exhibition, youth day, and international friendship night. The biennial festival showcases the rich diversity of cultures practiced nationwide, made possible through partnership with the 16 regional centers for national culture. Before we wrap up the bulletin, let's take a recap of our top stories. There is growing sentiment about whether the election will see the rise of a third force. Also, Ghana Statistical Service latest report reveals children aged 0 to 5 months in Ghana were not being exclusively breastfed. Also, CTAG invalidates an MOA with NLC over its agitations. Kamala Harris chooses Tim Walz as running mate on the international front. Thank you for staying with us here on ABC News Ghana. I am Jennifer Sumwa. Good afternoon.